Hello there, my name is Nate Lynch. I've been shooting USPSA for 5 years now. In that time, I've learned a lot and coached along a lot of new shooters, and when I was relatively new to USPSA myself, I made another video like this one, but in that time since then, I've gained more perspective on some things, and I've thought of some better ways to present some of the information. So today, I'm finally getting around to making a new and improved video. My goal is to teach you at least most of everything that you would need to know whenever you go to your first match. As an overview, I'm going to start off talking about the safety rules. I'm going to talk about the gear and what different divisions you would shoot with different guns and gear. I'm going to talk about the scoring and how some of the game mechanics of USPSA work. And finally, I'm going to talk about how to actually shoot a stage. I know this video seems like it has a long run time and it's going to seem like a lot of information, but a lot of this is just background information that it's not something you're going to have to actually think about when you're shooting a match. It's just useful to know so that you can go to your match and start improving yourself as a shooter rather than trying to understand the rules of the game. We're going to start off with safety, and we're going to start off with the 4 rules of gun safety that everyone should know, and then I'll go into some more USPSA specific things. The first rule is treat every gun as if it is loaded. So what that generally means is don't do anything with an unloaded gun that you wouldn't also do if you knew that gun was loaded. It's just sort of respect for the firearm, but also I will mention, there are many instances in USPSA where there's no distinction between unloaded or loaded guns. So during a course of fire, if you drop your gun, it doesn't matter if it's loaded or unloaded, it's considered unsafe. Rule number 2 is never point a gun at something you don't wish to destroy. So I have a unloaded air pistol here. It's never been loaded actually. I just bought it for training and stuff like this. So never point a gun at something you don't wish to destroy. That's going to be sweeping yourself most often. So if you're running with your gun, make sure you don't sweep it across your arm. Make sure you run just in a way that your arms aren't going to point at each other. When you're loading and unloading, make sure that you don't go out in front of the muzzle. Make sure you only go over the top. When you're unloading at the end of the stage, a lot of people will eject the round high and catch it, and that's okay if it comes back like this, but sometimes it'll go out in front of the gun, and even though you did just unload it, that is still considered unsafe. Rule number 3 is keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on the target and you've made a decision to fire. So what that means is, unless you're actually aiming at a target and you're about to fire at the target, your finger should not be on the trigger. It should be visibly outside the trigger, actually, is what the rules in USPSA say. So a lot of people will get in a bad habit of just sort of floating their finger outside the trigger guard like this. It's very difficult to tell whether your finger is here versus here. That's not a lot of difference, and there's a good reason for that. If your finger is up here and you fall during a stage, when you instinctively try to grab the handgun, your finger is going to stay up here. If your finger is here, whenever you are running and you fall and you instinctively try to grab the handgun, you can easily press in right like that. So that's why the rules are set up the way they are. The rules in USPSA are generally set up so that 2 things have to go wrong before anyone's in any real actual danger. It seems like a lot, but remember, we're running around with loaded guns, so we kind of want to err on the side of caution at all times. Rule number 4 is know your target and what's beyond it. So this is mostly taken care of during setup. The target should be set up so that shots are going to go into the berm once they pass through the target, and not into the ground and reflecting out, or God forbid the target's so high that shots will just go straight through and out of the berm, because that's not good. But another part of this is make sure that you or anybody else is not downrange when the next shooter is going to begin the course of fire. So if you're downrange, make sure there's someone nearby. If you see someone alone pasting the last far away target, make sure that you stay near them or someone else stays near them, so that if the range officer doesn't see you or doesn't see them, he'll see you, or vice versa. So that covers the 4 main rules of gun safety that apply anywhere, but I'm going to talk about some rules that apply in USPSA specifically, and most other action shooting sports. The big one that you're going to hear about a lot is the 180. So what the 180 is, if we pretend the straight this way is downrange, the berm is that way. I'm pointing directly at the berm. I'm at 0 degrees right now. So I'm pointing straight in. perpendicular to the berm. I can point 90 degrees this way, and I can point 90 degrees that way, and I'm fine. That's the 180. I have 90 degrees in either direction, or 180 degrees in which it's safe to fire. If I point to the 180 and then go even slightly this way, that means I've broken the 180. The reason that we have this rule is obviously your squad is going to be that way, so we want to keep the gun this way at all times. This courses of fire should be set up so that you're never in danger of pointing past the 180. That being said, there are some areas where it's going to be a concern. So the most common way to break the 180 is reloading. If I'm reloading, I'm going to put my mag in my pocket so I have something to reload. If I'm reloading this way, I'm fine. We all cant our guns towards our weak side whenever we're reloading. So if I'm pointing straight down range, I'm fine. I can insert the mag and I'm fine. If I'm going this way, so if I'm going left to right as a right-handed shooter or right to left as a left-handed shooter, I would also be fine because I'm pointing the gun downrange. It's even better than pointing straight downrange. But if I am, as a right-handed shooter, if I'm moving right to left or vice versa for a left-handed shooter, we have a tendency of pointing the gun this way, which we have to resist. So if you are going to reload while moving right to left on a stage, there's two ways to go about it mostly. There is either you drop the mag and then run, and then as you're getting into the new position, you square up, insert the mag, and start shooting again. Or what you can do is, if it's like a short distance and you want to reload fast, you can initiate your reload, keep squared, and insert right like that. Another time when the 180 will be a concern is when you're trying to move up range. So, like I said, the gun is what matters in this case. So if I'm shooting like this and I have to go up range, how I'm going to do it is going to depend on what direction I'm going to move once I get up range. If I'm going that way, I'll drag the gun like this. If I'm going that way, I will point the gun sort of over my shoulder. It's one of my least favorite things about this sport, but sometimes it is unavoidable. But it seems a little awkward, but it's perfectly safe to do. One other time when the 180 is going to be a concern is during an uprange turn and draw stage. So I'll put my belt on real quick and I'll show you how that works. I'm going to be using a real gun now. I'm downstairs all by myself and the gun is unloaded, so just know that this is safe. During a turn and draw stage, if we're pretending that way is straight down range, you'll face straight up range and usually you'll be wrist above shoulders. The rule for drawing in the 180 is the holster body, the front of the holster, has to be past the 180 when you draw. So my holster is pointing this way, just past the 180. I can't draw here, but I can draw here. So when you're doing a turn and draw stage, make sure the gun doesn't come out here, because I have seen that happen. Make sure that during a turn and draw, you turn as you're initiating your draw, so that by the time the gun comes out of the holster, you're past the 180. The specific rule is when the front of the holster body is past the 180 is the first time that the trigger can be accessible. So one last safety rule of USPSA and really any action shooting that I'm aware of is going to be, it's going to be a cold range, we call it. So what that means is unless you are at a safe table, which I'm going to pretend this is a safe table for the purposes of this demonstration, unless you're at a safe table or you're under the direct supervision of a range officer, which means you're about to shoot a stage, you should not be handling your gun, and your gun should be unloaded in its holster or unloaded and flagged and carried vertically if you're using a PCC. So I'll go over that. So when you go to your match, ideally your gun should be unloaded and in a case. If you're like concealed carrying, that's okay. You can show up and then let them know you're concealed carrying and they'll take you to a bay and you can unload. But ideally your gun should be in a case. So I'm gonna take my gun. I put it in a case for this demonstration, so it's in a case. I'm going to go to the safe table. You cannot handle any ammo at a safe table, so I'll go to the safe table. I'll verify 100% that it's unloaded. I'll turn on my dot if I'm going to be shooting soon. Gun goes in a holster, and then you don't touch the holster again until it's your turn to shoot a stage, and the range officer gives you the make ready command, which I'll talk about range commands later. That's how you would do it with a handgun. With a PCC, or pistol caliber carbine, again, you would, I didn't bring my case down here, but you would leave your gun in a case, take it to a safe table, You could uncase at the safe table. You can uncase at it. So for PCC, the rule is if you're within 6 feet of a berm, you can uncase there. You know, take it out, point it at the berm, and then stay vertical and go up and get ready to shoot your stage. Keep it vertical until you hear the make ready command. So that's how you can do it for PCC. I know the safe table rules and the no handling ammo can seem excessive, but actually just yesterday when I am recording this, somebody at a range in Alabama was at a safe table and had a negligent discharge because they had ammo in the safe table, and they meant to just be practicing dry fire, I think they were doing, and they've put a mag in, racked it, and pow. That was okay there because their safe table had a safe backstop, and that should be the case always, but it is not always the case. So that's why the safe table rules are as excessive as they are. Like I said, really 2 rules have to be broken before anyone should be in any real danger. So that's a lot of the safety rules talked about, basically everything you should need to know regarding safety when you go to your first match. Now, before I talk about gear and the divisions, I am going to talk about before you go to your first match, you should have at least a basic level of competency with your gun. So I don't mean that you should be like super skilled. In fact, you don't need to be super skilled when you go to your first match. In fact, I would recommend going to your first match as soon as you have this basic level of competency, because your skills will advance faster at matches under that pressure than they would just practicing on your own. That being said, when you go to your first match, you should have a basic level of accuracy. You don't have to be a bullseye shooter. We're certainly not shooting bullseyes at USPSA, but you should be able to make your rounds go generally where you want them to on a target, and ideally at some level of speed. You should be able to safely load, unload your firearm. You should be able to diagnose and remedy malfunctions, because if a gun will ever malfunction, it will do it at a match. I have had guns that were entirely flawless until I went to my first match with them and had a malfunction on the first stage. You should know what all of the controls and all the buttons and switches and levers and everything on your firearm does. You should know what it does so that if you have to use it during a match, you know how to use it. I've seen people, they're in a stage and they have some sort of strange malfunction and their gun is completely, they can neither make it fire nor make it unlock, and that's not a situation you want to be in. So like I said, you don't have to be extremely talented, but you should know how to operate your firearm and know what all the controls do so that you can use them if you need to get through a stage. So now that all that's out of the way, let's talk about gear. Some gear is entirely universal, so you're going to need some eye protection, and you're going to need some ear protection. I like the in-ears. Some people like over-ears. Some guns, open guns with their compensators, are particularly loud. If you're going to be shooting one of those, I would recommend both in-ears and over-ears. You only have one set of ears, and all hearing damage is permanent to some degree. So if you're shooting a handgun, you're going to need a belt, holster, and ideally some mag pouches. Mag pouches are not entirely required. You can store mags in pockets, but mag pouches are going to work a lot better and be easier. So regarding belts, almost everybody who shoots the game is in favor of a 2-piece belt design. So what that means is I have a Velcro belt on the inside, and this belt attaches to that Velcro on the outside, and the inner belt just goes through your belt loops. This is a lot easier because it just means that when you get to the match, you just put on that outer belt and you're good to go. But if you don't want to spend the money to get a belt like that, you can just show up with a normal belt and just affix your holster and your mag pouches to it whenever you're at the match. You're absolutely allowed to do that, but this does make things a lot easier. My particular belt is a Lynx belt. It's really nice. I can fold it up into basically a little ball and just attach it to my cart, and I'm good to go home. But there's plenty of other belts that do the same thing basically. There's lots of different manufacturers that make belts. There's Double Alpha, there's CR Speed, Shooter's Connection, Weber Tactical. There are loads of different manufacturers. They all do about the same thing. Just, I guess, pick whichever one's color you like the best, or if you're buying from one location, buy whichever one they happen to have. Regarding holsters, I currently run a Red Hill Tactical. I like them. They work really well for me. There's also GX holster, makes probably the best holster in the game if you're not running a light. There is Double Alpha, CR Speed, Ghost, Blade Tech, Contact. There's a whole bunch of holster manufacturers. Again, just ideally get something that completely covers the trigger guard and something with ideally, so it should have some retention, but if you have something that you can dial the retention quickly is nice. My particular holster, I have it's actually a bike lever. So when it's like this, it's very high retention. Like I could pull the gun out, but it would take a lot. If I flip this down, there's very little retention, just enough to keep the gun safe so that I can draw as quickly as possible. Regarding mag pouches, again, many different manufacturers available. Mine are Ghost, there is Double Alpha, there is CR Speed, there's dozens of manufacturers of mag pouches. I will tell you that you can spend the money and get a really fancy mag pouch, but my Ghost pouches are the cheapest in the game and they are my favorite. I've tried a bunch of different ones, but these are super quick. If you're going to be shooting a pistol caliber carbine, you are going to need a flag. You can't holster these, so this is sort of your equivalent to a holster. It verifies that your gun is unloaded and safe, and like I said, you're going to carry your gun vertically. PCC guys, a lot of times will not run a belt. I mean, it's nice if you can, but some people just prefer the comfort of not having the belt on. So that covers the universal gear requirements. So now I'm going to talk about the different divisions. And I would recommend, rather than worrying about which division, just go and shoot a match with the gear that you have that you're comfortable with. If you have any ideally full-sized pistol, that's all you need. You're going to be as competitive in any division. So I would say just shoot what you have, and then if you really want to worry about gaming, you can do that later. That being said, this would not be a complete video unless I did talk about gear, so I'll talk about the different divisions, the different guns and gear will put you in. Starting from theoretically the most accessible division, there's production. I'm going to move through this relatively quickly. Production is for basically factory handguns. You could do some modifications, but it's pretty basic. It's 15 rounds in the mag is the limit in production, and iron sights only, and your gun has to be on the production list. Just about every handgun made today that's not a 2011 or some other single action only gun is going to be on the production list. You can find that on USPSA's website, but it's just basically factory guns limited to 15 rounds. Next is limited. In limited, you can do frame weights, you can do big mag wells, but it's still iron sight handguns only. In limited division, you can run 140 millimeter magazines, so that's this. That's going to get you probably 20 to 23 rounds with a 9 millimeter gun and around 20 rounds with a 40 caliber gun. The reason that you would want to shoot 40 caliber in limited division is limited division has what's called major and minor power factor. So minor power factor, that's going to be basically all your 9mm guns. Major power factor, you're going to shoot a more powerful round, and that's going to give you more recoil, and in most divisions it's going to give you less capacity, but in return for that, if you don't hit the highest scoring zone on a target, major power factor guns get a little bit more points, so that's worth considering. Up next is the best division, because it's my division, carry optics. Carry optics is basically the guns from production division, but the 140 millimeter magazines from limited division. You have a dot on your gun now. I run a light on mine. You can do that in any division. This is my gun here. Up next is a relatively new division, limited optics. Limited optics is basically carry optics with a magwell. Ooh. That being said, in limited optics, you are also allowed to run 2011s and other single action guns that are not on the production list. In my opinion, if I had to guess, I think they'll probably have to change either limited optics or carry optics to differentiate them in the future, because right now they're basically the same division. What happened was the 2011 shooters really wanted to play in carry optics, but some people who had the current race guns in carry optics didn't want the 2011s to come in, so USPSA gave 2011s their own little division, and people are realizing that it doesn't matter. So I think probably what will happen, is eventually they will take carry optics and make it the 15 round mags, and it'll differentiate the two at least a little bit. That's my theory. I don't know if that'll happen, but if it does happen, I said it here first. I'm kidding, people have been saying that for ages. Up next, there's a few kind of niche handgun divisions. There is single stack division, which that's if you have a 1911, you're gonna be in single stack. Single stack does have major and minor, and the major guns will run 8-round mags plus 1 in the chamber. The minor guns will run 10-round mags plus 1 in the chamber. So that's pretty neat. But other than that, if your gun's a 1911, you're in single stack division. Up next is revolver division. Revolver is pretty much insane because these stages can have up to 32 rounds, so revolvers will be reloading quite a bit, and they have the most difficult reload. That being said, if you ever get a chance to shoot with a really talented revolver shooter, it is astounding to watch them shoot because they are well practiced and they can reload those revolvers just about as fast as some of the not super talented, but some of the decently talented semi-automatic handgun shooters can reload. So it's pretty neat to watch them shoot. The last handgun division I'm going to talk about is open division. So open division is basically anything goes. They can have 170 millimeter mags, so that's going to be like 28 rounds, 29 with 9 millimeter, and most of the guys shooting it will run either 38 super comp or 9 major. So that's a 9 millimeter round loaded to absurd pressures to get major power factor without the capacity penalty. In open division, you can run a compensator. In fact, that's the only handgun division that you can run a compensator. You can run a laser sight. You can run a giant red dot attached to your frame rather than the slide. You can run a magwell. You can do just about anything as long as it's still a handgun. Open division is called the Formula 1 of USPSA, and as a Formula 1 fan, I take issue with that. Formula 1 cars are very fast, yes, but they're also extremely difficult to drive. An open gun is by design the easiest handgun to shoot. In fact, I would say it's barely a handgun anymore because there is almost no recoil if they're set up right. There are the lightest triggers in the game, and it's just, generally speaking, it's a race gun, yes, but it's extremely easy to shoot. Open division is really not my thing, but it is absolutely the most competitive handgun division, and like I said, while it's not something I'm interested in, it is impressive to watch a talented open gun shooter run through a stage. Finally, there is pistol caliber carbine, or PCC division. PCC, there is no limit on mag capacity, so people will often run like a 40 round magazine to get them the whole way through a stage without a reload. Really, the only rules in PCC that I think would be worth mentioning are it has to have a stock, so it can't be a braced pistol, and your trigger, if you have certain like fancy triggers, the trigger cannot be wider than the trigger guard. So that's just something worth mentioning. But other than that, if your gun is a PCC, you can shoot PCC division. This division is dominated by 9mm ARs, but there's all kinds of different kinds. There are Scorpions, there are MPXs, if you're with someone really cool on your squad, you'll see an MP5 or two. But yeah, it's just pistol caliber rifles. So now you're almost ready to shoot your first match, but first we have to find you a match. So what I would recommend is go to practicescore.com and use their Find a Match feature. So you'll make a profile on PracticeScore, it's free, and then go to matches and search. I'd recommend searching for USPSA matches, but they have all kinds of different competitive shooting matches from 22s to long-range rifle. But if we're talking about USPSA, you'll search for USPSA matches, and then you can use the map and look around. I happen to live in an area where I can shoot USPSA once or twice every weekend from March until the end of October, and then a little bit through the winter. So once you found a match, you're going to go to your match. Most matches offer pre-registration on PracticeScore, but if not, you'll get registered. Let them know that you're new, and they'll try to squad you with an experienced nerd like myself who can help you through the match. Before you actually get with your squad, I would recommend walking all the stages and developing a plan. I'll talk about that at the end of the video, but once you're with your squad, I'll talk about how the process will go. So the squad will probably be sorted by last name alphabetically, but you can still let them know that you're a new shooter and they can move you to the end of the squad just so you can watch other people do it before you have to go and take your turn. So they'll call out the shooter. That shooter will come up, he'll shoot the stage, and then we'll all reset and we'll keep going. So they'll be calling out the shooter, the on-deck shooter, the in-the-hole shooter, and then whenever they get to the point where they're calling you out as the in-hole shooter, you don't have to reset anymore. You can hang back, you can take a seat, you can rest, you can get your stage plan back in your head, and you can just get ready to shoot. When it is your turn to shoot, now I'm going to talk about the range commands. So the range officer, he's the guy holding the timer. He will issue you the range commands to get you through the stage. So when it's your turn to shoot, you can get one last walkthrough in while they're scoring the previous shooter's stage. But once you're done with that, you'll go back to the start position, which I'll pretend is right here. Within the stage, on the stage there should be a written stage briefing, and that'll tell you all kinds of stuff. It'll tell you the number of rounds, it'll tell you the start position, it'll tell you the number of targets, all kinds of things. And the WSB can be as specific as it needs to be. So for this make ready, I'm just going to pretend it's standard, wrist below belt, handgun loaded and holstered. So the first command he will give you is make ready. Do not take your handgun out of the holster or take your PCC off of vertical until you hear make ready. Once you hear make ready, you're going to get into the ready position for the stage. Sometimes that'll be unloaded, but usually the most common one, I would say, is loaded and holstered, wrist below belt. So that's what I'm going to do here. So when he says make ready, I'm going to take my gun out, load it. I'm going to verify my dots on. You don't really have a time limit in your make ready. Some people will take a long make ready and they'll actually imagine their way through the stage. I tend to just have that in my head, and I'll just make sure my dots on, make sure my mag's good to go, gun back in the holster, and I'm ready to shoot. Once you're in your make ready and you're done, get in the ready position and stand still. Don't be moving around because it will just stare at you with the timer and wait until you stop moving. So stop moving in the ready position. The next range command is, are you ready? That's a question. If you suddenly realize, oh shoot, I didn't do something, you can let them know, no, I'm not ready, and you're good. You don't have to say you're ready. If you are ready, you can just stand still. That's what I usually do. So he'll go, are you ready? If he thinks you're ready, the next command will be stand by. 1 to 4 seconds after standby, you'll get the beep. And when you get the beep, or the start signal it's called, when you get that, you can shoot the stage as required. While you're shooting the stage, if he says stop, that means one of two things. Either it means you did something unsafe and now you're disqualified, which is unfortunate. Don't do that. Or it means maybe there was a range equipment malfunction. Maybe the wind blew a target down. Maybe you hit a popper and it was supposed to activate a swinging target and the target didn't activate. So if you hear stop, just stop and obey whatever the range command says next. But ideally you shouldn't hear that. And the next range command you'll hear is, if you're finished, unload and show clear. So I'm shooting the stage. You can initiate this on your own. You don't have to wait for him to say it. So I'm shooting the stage. I fired my last shot. I'm going to unload and show clear. So I'll pull the mag out. I'll put it on my magnet. I didn't talk about magnets. They're not required, but and they're not really even competitively advantageous most stages, but it's nice to just be able to whip the mag out and stick it on the magnet. So if you're finished, unload and show clear. So I magazine out. I just catch the round like that rather than just the big over the top thing. So you unload and show clear. So the RO will probably be on your right side, and you'll hold the gun downrange. You don't swing it around and let him look at it. You just hold it downrange, and the RO will come and verify that it's unloaded. The next range command is, if clear, hammer down and holster. That is also a question. It is on you to verify your handgun, or your PCC, I guess, is unloaded. So if clear, hammer down, holster. So you will drop the slide, pull the trigger, and holster. You do have to pull the trigger. So if you have a gun with a decocker, you can't hit the decocker. You have to pull the trigger, because that way we verified the gun is unloaded. Because if it wasn't unloaded, it would be bang. And if that happens, it is considered an unsafe action because you thought your gun was unloaded, but it is not. It was not supposed to be loaded there. I'm going to cover the make ready process and the unload and show clear process for PCC because they're the ones that are unique for PCC. So for PCC, like I said, you're going to take your gun out of the case at the berm, point it at the berm, and then go vertical. And you'll carry it vertical until you get the make ready command. So your PCC should have the flag in it when it's in the case, and you stay vertical, and you're at the start position waiting for the make ready command. You get make ready. You will take the flag out, put it in your pocket or something. And I'm pretending this is so for PCC, the most common start position is going to be loaded, stock on belt, and it doesn't say this in the start position, but your safety is required to be on. I have kind of a weird safety on this one, but this is safety on. I'm in the start position, my stock's touching the belt, and this is my ready position. So I'll get, are you ready? Stand by, beep, pop, 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 pop. I'm done. So if you're finished, unload and show clear. I'll take the mag out. It's hard to catch the mag for PCC, so I just eject the round right like that. If clear, sorry, so for PCC, it's if you're finished, unload and show clear. So I just did that. I'm showing clear. If clear, hammer down flag. So you'll drop the charging handle, pull the trigger, and flag. So lock the bolt back. Flag goes in. Vertical. Vertical is not a command. A lot of ROs will say it, but they're not required to. You just go vertical. The last range command is range is clear.
Make ready. Poor. Are you ready? Stand by. You're finished. Prepare for next string. 6, 7, 4.
He did 6, 7, 4 on the first stage, and the second time through, I bet it.
Are you ready?
Wait.
Are you ready? Stand by. If finished, unload, show clear. If clear, hammer down, holster. Range is clear. 6, 6, 7.
6, 6, 7.
So once he says range is clear, we're going to go score the stage. He's going to read out the time. He'll call your hits. And now we'll talk about scoring. So, on most stages in the USPSA, the scoring is what's called hit factor. So, hit factor is points divided by time. So you get points by shooting targets, and you lose points by hitting penalty targets or getting penalties like firing out of bounds, stuff like that. So, let's talk about that. On any target, whether it's a USPSA target or an IPSC target, there's going to be 3 scoring zones. There's the alpha, this big rectangle in the middle, Charlie, which is the area around it, and Delta. In the USPSA target, there's also the A zone in the head. On an IPSC target, it is the same. Alpha, Charlie, Delta. If you see any areas on a target that are painted black, that's called hard cover. So if your shot lands here, you still get the alpha. If it lands down here, that's considered the same as if you miss the target. So basically the target ends where the brown ends. If you miss the target, so if the target requires 2 hits and only ends up with 1 hit, that is a miss or mic. That is -10 points. If you see a white target on a round target, that is a penalty target, also known as a no-shoot. So a no-shoot, in addition to a mic, if you mic into the no-shoot, is -10 on its own. So -10 for the no-shoot, -10 for the mic. So if you see a target like this, especially when you're starting off, you really want to give it a level of respect. You want to make sure you don't hit the no-shoot. So, and also I'll let you know, if you hit, so these lines on the target are called the perforations. If you hit the perforation, you get the higher of the 2 scoring zones. On a no-shoot though, if you just hit the perforation on the no-shoot, that means you'll get both the scoring hit and the no-shoot. So if you hit right here, where my tip of my finger is, I would get both the no-shoot and the alpha. So I get 5 points and -10 points with 1 bullet. It's kind of funny. But that's basically how it works. So you shoot the stage, you'll get points for hitting the targets. Hopefully you don't have any penalties, but if you do, you'll lose points for that. And then your points are divided by your time in seconds, and that gets you your hit factor. So that's how the overwhelming majority of stages will work. There is also fixed time. So on fixed time, you, rather than having an unlimited amount of time, just you want to shoot fast, in fixed time, you have a limited amount of time. So say it'll be 5 seconds, you can draw, go pop, 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 reload, pop, 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 pop. But if you aren't fast enough to get that all done, So you go pa 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 pa, reload, beep. Oh shoot! So you ran out of time. You can't fire anymore. In fixed time, rather than getting a hit factor, you just get however many points you shoot. So if you shot 2 alphas and that's all you got, and then you get 10 points. So to give you an example of how the scoring works out over the course of a stage and over the course of a match, I have an example from the last match I had of the year at East Huntington. So a friend of mine won the stage, so it'll be really easy to do the math. And so that you understand, on a stage, whoever wins the stage gets all of the points from that stage. And the number of points on a stage is the number of hits on a stage times 5. So this is a 20-round stage. Times 5, that's 100. So he won the stage, so he gets 100 points. So he had 17 alphas, 1 Charlie, 2 deltas, and a time of 9.61. That gave him a hit factor of 9.3652. So he had the highest hit factor for that stage, so he gets 100 points. I got second on that stage. I had 16 alphas, 3 Charlies, 1 delta, but he got me by almost a full second, so I was 10.58 seconds. So I had a hit factor of 8.5066. So 8.5066 is 90.83% of his hit factor. I'm not going to repeat it again. So I was 90.83%. So I got 90.832 points for the stage. So that's how the scoring works out on a stage. And then if we look at how the scores work out over the course of a whole match, I have him in blue here and me in red. So I won stages 1 and 2 between the two of us, just barely. He absolutely crushed me on 3. I think he took the stage win there, and I had a miss, so that was my worst stage and his best stage. So, and then he also beat me on stages 4, 5, and 6. And so at the end of the match, he had 656.6756 points, and I had 604.4722 points. So that's how scoring works out over the course of the whole match. So, like I said, this is not something you're going to have to actually think about when you're shooting a match, but it's useful information to know so that when you get home and you're like, man, how'd this guy beat me? I was way faster than him. Well, first of all, you can look at your hits, because maybe you had a whole bunch of mics that you weren't paying attention to, or maybe you had a bunch of very good stages that you did beat him on, but then you had one stage where you absolutely tanked that he beat you on, and then over the course of the whole match, that worked out to him beating you. So now comes the fun part, actually shooting a stage. So each stage is going to have its written stage briefing, which I talked about briefly, but it's going to have the start position, it's going to have the number of targets, the number of rounds, the number of points. It's going to have whether this is Virginia count or Comstock. Virginia count means that you can't fire extra shots, basically. Comstock means you can fire as many rounds as you have on your belt. It's going to have, if there's activator targets, so targets that move, it's going to have what activates that target. It's going to have all the information that you need to shoot the stage. Most stages in USPSA are what's called freestyle. So freestyle means it gives you a basic problem. So you start here, targets are all over the place, and you can figure out whatever is the most efficient plan to shoot all those targets. Some stages are more specific. They will have one array of targets, and you'll be in like a shooting box, and it'll say shoot these targets, reload, and shoot these targets. Like I said, whatever the stage briefing says is how you're going to shoot. For those standard stages, you'll just shoot however they say, and there won't be a lot of thought involved. But for the freestyle stages, which are the overwhelming majority of stages in USPSA, there will be some planning involved. And while I can't run very fast, and I can't split quite as fast as some people can, and definitely not as accurate as I should be sometimes, but I can break down a stage pretty well. If there's some game to find, I can usually find it. So I'm gonna talk about some things that I think about when shooting or when planning stages, and then I'll roll in some examples from my last match that I held in East Huntington this year. So when you get to the stage, find the WSB, figure out how many targets you're looking for. Then go through the stage, find all those targets. Then you have to find what are the fewest number of positions I have to go to smoothly and quickly shoot all these targets. I'll say when you're a beginner, try to keep your plan simple. It should be basically go here, shoot everything, go here, shoot everything, etc. until you're done with the stage. That being said, as soon as you develop the skill of stage planning and you can remember more specific things, I would recommend trying to be as specific as possible when you're walking stages. So if you, rather than just being like, I got to go here and shoot this target, be like, I got to go here and I got to see my sights at this point so I can shoot this target as early as possible. I have to go to exactly this place so that I can shoot this. You want to be as specific as you can, because if you know what you need to see before you're actually under the timer and you can solve that problem now, that means that you don't have to solve that problem while you're on the clock. When I was relatively new to shooting USPSA, one of my early mentors told me that what you want to be able to do when you're walking stages is you want to get the plan visualized to the point where you can walk away from the stage, turn your back, close your eyes, and you can visualize your way through the stage and understand where you need to go. Because, like I said, if you're not thinking about where do I need to go, that means you're going to shoot the stage that much faster. And again, when you're new, let your squad know that you're new, and they will happily all help you, or at least one nerd on the squad who's like me will take you under their wing and help guide you through coming up with either an advanced plan if you want it, or a basic plan if it'll just get you through the stage. I enjoy teaching just as much as I enjoy shooting USPSA. I really don't think that's an overstatement. When I went to my first match, I was immediately hooked. Like, I left that match and was immediately like, when's the next match? I need to shoot this every single weekend, and that's pretty much what I've been doing ever since. And if I can help it, I want to help as many people also have that same experience. I want you to go to your first match, have an absolute blast, and just keep coming back. I want the sport to grow, and I want new shooters to come in. That's the only way that's going to happen. Every single person you see shooting a USPSA match, unless they're also at their first match, they know what it's like to be at their first match. They know what it's like to know nothing, which, yeah, I knew nothing when I went to my first match. You can tell I'm the right kind of nerd, so I studied up on the rules a little bit, but there was a lot that I had no idea what I was doing. My first stage was an unloaded start, and the very first thing I did shooting USPSA was grab my mag and drop that mag. So, believe me, something I tell people is the people on your squad, they don't want you to make the same mistakes that we did. They want you to make new mistakes because it's funny. But in all seriousness, let them know that you're new. Even if you think you know what you're doing, let them know that you have no idea what you're doing, and they will happily guide you through the match because, like I said, we want everyone to be safe and we want you to have a great time. So like I said, I'm going to put in some video from me walking some stages for the East Huntington match, and I'll give you an example of what I'm looking at, and you'll see sometimes they work out very well, and sometimes I was actually incorrect, and I had to change some things up. So here's that.
All right, whenever you come to a stage, you're going to want to find the number of rounds, the number of targets. This is a 20-round stage. There are 9 cardboard targets and 2 steel. One of the steel activates the swinger, which comes out and it'll wave around. The start position is on this mark here, toes. Handgun is loaded and holstered, wrist below belt. So you'll start like this. Then you can find your own way through the stage. This stage is pretty straightforward. There's only one way that I would say is really worth running it, which is to step in, take this one, move on this one, that one, then take this one and move across. Ping, ping, swinger, static. Another thing that you could do for Sealy, this is a option. I don't know if it's necessarily the best option, but it's available. You could step in, take this one, that one. You can set up the steel, the swinger, and the static target, and then actually move backwards across. It's a freestyle game, so you're free to choose whatever works best for you.
Are you ready? Stand by.
This stage is 21 rounds. There are 9 USPSA targets and 3 steel. So you will start straddling this start stick, and then you can go a couple different ways. I would say go back there to take these 2 targets, whenever you have to go back like this on a draw, it's important that you are still facing downrange whenever the handgun comes out of the holster. So what you are going to want to do is draw and then move back immediately. You can initiate that as fast as you want, but it's important that the handgun is out of the holster and, you know, downrange before you start moving up range. So I'm going to go over there, shoot those, shoot this steel. Then you got to come up here to both of these two corners. Which one is sort of preferential, but I would prefer to go here first and then there, and I'll show you why in a second. You come here first, then you can shoot in on this one a little better, whereas over here there's nothing to shoot. And then after you're in this corner, you can move up and shoot flowing the whole way. Whereas if you come over here first and you shoot in here, then you have nothing to shoot over here, and then you also have to kind of split this up front. So like I said, there's usually many different ways that are technically valid to shoot a stage, but there's one that is probably the best, or at the very least one that's best for your own personal shooting style.
Are you ready? Stand by.
This stage is a 23 rounder. It has 10 paper targets and 3 steel. The start position is up here, and this one's a pretty linear stage. There's really one way that everyone's going to flow through it, but especially once you get up front, there's a bunch of different ways that you can activate and move through the stage, because up front there's an activator sequence, which I'll show you how that works. But basically you start back here, and you can either just take all these targets and then run back, or you can shoot on the move backing up. It's more difficult shooting on the move and backing up, so it is up to you whether or not you think you can do that. But if you can do that, I think that is definitely the better option. And if you try it, I think you would be surprised how easy it actually is. So you're going to draw, hit this target, that target, that target, that target, and now I'm already back to the point where I can hit this target and that target. Now, after having done that, you have to go over there to get that target. You can either just run over, or you can use this target to move, and now I'm already there. After you do that, you can reload. If you wanted to, you could save that one for after the reload. And up here is what's called an activator sequence. So the popper on the right activates this target, which is called a max trap. The popper on the left activates that target, which is a swinger. So you have a bunch of different ways you can shoot this. Ideally, the way that you're going to save time is that you shoot this so that you're always shooting. So you don't want to hit one popper and then go wait for this target, and then that popper and go wait for that target. The best way to shoot this, if it is within your comfort level, is to hit ping, 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 pop, 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 or ping, 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 pop, 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 pop. It's little things, but you always want to save as much time as you can if it's possible.
Are you ready? Stand by. Finish, unload, show clear.
These two stages down here are probably the most freestyle. This one is another 20 round stage that is 9 cardboard targets and 2 steel. The start position is unloaded on the table. Unloaded starts just like reloads. You do have to be mindful of the 180 during your load, but as with anything else, you're trying to save time, so you want to move on your reload. So you have 2 options. You can, well, actually you have many options on this stage. You can load to the right, which is probably going to be the easiest way for right-handers, because when we reload we point the gun this way. You could also move left. or you can even go up front. I saw multiple different ways to run this stage. I'll show you the two main ones. I think going left first is the best, but if you're going to go left first, like I said, you do have to mind your 180 if you're a right-hander. So you grab your gun, and to avoid breaking the 180, I just keep my shoulders squared up and downrange as I move across. Load, shoot him, shoot the two poppers, come over here. If you have to reload, you can initiate your reload while you're on the move to save time. And then what I did, because I came up front, is I hit this target, and then you just back out the whole way. And by the time I hit that target, this target is available. Then I hit him, him, him. And that way I'm shooting the whole time. Another very valid plan though, if you go left, is you can do the same thing, shoot these three targets with the one target and the two steel. Then you come across and you hit him, 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 and now you're going to be basically doing this in reverse. You're going to be shooting in. Shooting forward for most people is easier than shooting backward. You do have to make sure you get in all the way here to catch that target, but it's definitely an option. I would say this one does add movement because you have to move all the way over here and then up front, so it adds probably a few more steps, but it's going to be easier for a lot of people to shoot it that way. And then, as I was saying, it is technically an option to go right first. You can load, and then basically you'll shoot this, and then you'll finish over there. You'll hit this target, that one, and then finish here. And if you're going to be moving this way, you're going to really have to just point the gun down range. So just point the gun down range and run this way, and then pop, pop, ping, ping.
Are you ready? Stand by. Finished. Unload, show clear.
This is another stage with a bunch of different ways to run it. Less so in regards to having a bunch of different ways to actually run through the stage, but more in regards to this activator sequence over here. So downrange here, we have a big popper and then two little poppers right behind it. When that big popper is up, you can't see the two little poppers behind it, and you can only really see, oh, you can kind of see them from around here, but you can mainly see them from here. And so you're going to hit that popper, and that popper is going to activate this swinger, but still you're going to have this target and those two poppers back here. So there's going to be a bunch of different ways, because we're trying to time this right, but we're also trying to just get this whole thing done. And in the meantime, while we're shooting all this, we want to be moving so that we get back here to take this tuxedo target. So actually, the wind blew this wall down. It shouldn't be quite that hard. I'll have to hit that with a hammer tomorrow. So you have all this that you have to shoot, and you ideally want to balance that with movement to get back to here. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. What I did, and you have to start with your hands on these marks here, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be standing right behind it. You can still stand off to the side so that you can basically see downrange. So I drew to the big popper, hit the paper, moved back on the two mini poppers, hit this paper, and by then I'm back here for this tuxedo target. From there, you have two main ways to shoot the stage. You can either take these two as long shots, which is going to require more movement back here. If you take those two as a long shot, then you can initiate your reload up here onto this tuxedo. Then you have little popper, little popper, open, 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 big popper, open. That's one option. What I did, and that's actually kind of what I had in mind whenever I designed the stage, but what I actually did after I hit this tuxedo, I initiated my reload and ran over here, killing the reload time, hit these two targets, and then hit these three here, And then I was able to move, I think it actually flows more fluidly through here and finish on the tuxedo. There are two different plans that actually end up working out to basically the same time, I think. Very interesting. I saw a bunch of different ways, both regarding this activator sequence and regarding shooting the whole stage. So it's another really cool freestyle stage that offers a lot of different ways to attack it, depending on what are your strengths and weaknesses.
Are you ready? Stand by.
So that's about everything that I wanted to cover in this video. Please, if you have any questions, absolutely put them down in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to let you know, to respond. If there's anything that I said that confused you, if there's anything that you had heard that I didn't mention, that you're curious about, absolutely drop a comment, and I will answer any questions that you have. Again, thank you for watching, and I know this seemed like a lot of information, but believe me, like I said, a lot of it is just background information that you don't have to think about. It's just useful to know. So thank you for watching. Please absolutely go shoot your first match. Let me know how it goes. Don't worry about performing. I was third last in my first match, and I've come far since then. Just go, be safe, have a great time, and I really hope to see you at a match sometime. Thank you.